All right. Good morning again, everybody. This is Thursday. We're getting ready to do our grade 4 continuation lesson for storytelling, and we're going to get a little bit interactive today with some of the listeners, so that people can participate. So, what you're going to need is a pen. A pen of me. I have a Yoda pen. I'm rocking the Yoda pen today. And you also need some paper, whatever that is, notebook, loose leaf, all that kind of stuff. So just get your paper ready. And we're going to go through some storytelling. So as we continue on the lesson in storytelling, as we continue on for this day as a continuation from last, just a recap. First of all, thank you to all the people that have been so supportive in helping us grow this online learning and Indigenous education, and helping and supporting in these times of COVID-19, everything that's going on. Thank you to all that. And outreach has been phenomenal. So hi for that. But we are going to be doing a continuation. So when I do this in a classroom, it's always good to remind our students, what exactly did we learn the last time? Because so much learning happens throughout the day. So many things happen throughout the day that we forget, and we need to be reminded in some way, shape, or form. So this is a reminder. Last time we went through the oral storytelling of my mushroom story. It's called Murdo's Story, and it talked about summer and winter. In that lesson and in that story, there are so many different subject areas. There's so many different things that people could talk about. Animals, migration, weather, stars, astronomy. It hit also, the storytelling outcomes for English language arts, representing those and through oral tradition. So we did a lot of that. And one of the things that I asked people, the students that are listening, or the people that were listening, to do was to find their favorite story and to retell that. Now, the reason that I asked us to do that, and hopefully everybody did their homework, and parents were just like, yeah, we're going to make sure our kids do that. So one of the reasons I asked us to do that is to get familiar with knowing structure of story, to get familiar with knowing how we share that and represent that, because some people have difficulty in creating stories from scratch. Some people have difficulty in starting stories and telling them. So it's just so many different levels. So by using a favorite story and a story that we know, and retelling that and sharing that, we can write it, or we can share it through oral tradition, or however you want to do it. What those do is just makes us more comfortable with stories, because our lesson today is we are going to go through and we're going to talk about how important storytelling is for all of us, for students, parents, anybody, teachers. Storytelling is the foundation of so much learning, and without doing storytelling as best we can, we are actually losing a lot of really important information, a lot of really powerful teachings that can come out of it. So we're going to go through some of that. And, I'm excited for it because, I was raised, I went to school, you get the textbooks and you go through the textbooks and chapters, and, you do the assignments that are assorted with that. But when I went home, I actually was educated through story. Now, there's a misconception that Indigenous stories are only exist in the realm of creation, or only exist in the realm of legends, like that type of story. It's not actually. Story just goes beyond all of that. Those are included. Those are important. There's protocols that we do when we share, those creation stories, and we share those legends. There's those types of stories that exist, but there are also life stories that are so valuable to all of us, that teach us so many things as we navigate this world that we're in, even navigating the world right now. What is through story and through thinking back to some of these lessons and these teachings, you know, right now in terms of how we're living right now, how we're having to cope with everything that's happening. One of the things that we do one of the things that I do is I think back to some of the stories that my grandmother taught me and told me about life in the 30s in southern Saskatchewan, and what that actually meant for her as she was having to navigate that, you know, like in terms of how do we get enough supplies? How do we make sure that we have enough to, you know, to sustain? And, you know, how do we make sure that we look after one another? That's another big piece right there. Like right now, more than ever, we need to have this sense of community and looking after one another. So this brings us to story, and how does story fit into all of this? Well, story is the foundation for all of it. So I got my son here again. So Camden, he's in the background. He's got his notepad out. He's got his pen out. Hopefully everybody's got all of that stuff ready to go. So here we go. This is the storytelling lesson and the continuation for this week. And, you know, I hope you all enjoy it and hope it's fun. And, you know, this is what it is. So, I is what it is by meaning I wish we could do this in person, and I wish I was in the classroom again. But the number one thing that I want everybody to know is that we are all storytellers. Okay. All of us are storytellers. There is not one single person that exists in this world that is not a storyteller. Okay. So you, as a grade 4 student, my son Camden, you're a storyteller. Okay. Do you believe that you're a storyteller? Okay, all of you out there, you need to believe that you're a storyteller. If you can actually think of something cool that happened in your life, that means you're a storyteller. So that's the number one thing, is that we need to understand first and foremost that all of us are storytellers. Okay, we have this ability to tell story. And as Indigenous people, that ability to tell story is ingrained in our DNA. It's part of who we are. It's part of our original education system. It is the foundation of our knowing and our ways of knowing, is this ability to tell stories. So everybody believes that they're a storyteller. What are some different ways that you can tell story? Like, what are some different ways that you can tell somebody of something cool that happened to you at the store? So right now, just if you're talking with somebody in your home, just share something like, what are different ways that you can tell story? Go ahead. You want to tell me some?
Comic book.
A comic book. Boom. Awesome. So you can write a comic book of something that happened, and you can tell a story through a comic book. In a comic book, what are some parts of there? So there's art and drawing. There's also words, right? So you put them in, and they go in a sequence on there. What's another way that you can tell story?
Chapter book.
You can write a novel, a chapter book, 100%. So authors that are writing books in these awesome novels, these amazing novels, they put them down and they're telling story. Yes. So comic books, novels. What's another thing that we can do for how do we tell story?
Picture book.
Yeah, pictures we can draw. Storytelling doesn't always mean that it's written words down on a piece of paper. You can tell a story by drawing pictures, okay? And you can tell the story and actually how it goes. So a really cool fact, and one of the things that's so important for us to know, is as the Nakota way and Dakota Lakota way, we had this winter count that we would draw these pictures of our story on a buffalo robe. And these pictures would tell the story of different things that happen, whether it be a battle, whether it just be our nationhood and our family and our kinship. It would do all of those different stories. So we have those 100%. What's another way that we can tell story?
Maybe acting.
Yes, acting. Oh, man, so cool. So we can actually do drama and tell story by acting. Okay, now acting has so many different forms of storytelling, but if we go to a play or if we watch a movie, none of that's written down. They're expressing all of the story through their actions and what they do. Okay, so right now where you are, I want you to stand up. So Camden, can you stand up? So our grade 4 student right here is going to stand up. So we're going to express a story through acting, and we're not going to use any words. What we're going to do is we're going to tell a story, and this story is going to be just super cool because we're going to act as if we're in a huge box, okay? So we'll pretend this box is colonization. No, just kidding. We're not going to do that. But this box exists here, okay? And I want us to imagine that we're stuck inside this box, okay? So wherever you are, pretend you're stuck inside the box, okay? So I want you to just touch the roof. Oh, the roof's up there. Yep, the roof's on the side here. Oh, it's kind of tight in here, you know? It's a little bit, oh, geez, touch the wall over here. Oh, in the back, it's a bit hard. Okay, now I want you to imagine and I want you to act like the box is actually closing up on you. Okay, so the walls are coming in tighter, so you're trying to hold, you're getting squished, it's getting tighter here. Now, something's happening. You have to think of a plan to get out. So everything's here, your hat's getting all crumpled up and it's getting really messy here. How are you going to get out? What are you going to do?
Try to break the box.
Okay, so we're going to try break the box. So wherever you are, I want you to try break that box and just reel as hard as you can. Bam! Okay, now, no more box. You crumple that box up and we throw that box of colonization out to the side. And we are existing right now in a small short story through drama, through teaching. So if we were to go through and we just kind of moving and creating this space, we just told a story. All of us just told that story right there with one another. Now we could write that story as well. I woke up this morning and I found that I was surrounded by a box. And magically that box started to shrink and it started to squeeze me. It started to make me feel claustrophobic. So what I needed to do is I need to get out of that box. So I used all my strength and all my power and I smashed that box to bits. And then I got up and I got out and I crumpled that box and I threw it away. So you could write that story down. Another form of storytelling that is important for especially English language arts is poetry. Okay, you can write a poem about being stuck in that box. Okay, and you can write it and you can share that through poetry. So there's so many ways to express story and to tell story that will help us as we go forward. So number one, this is where your paid papers and come into effect. So I want all of us, we're all going to create story. This is our homework that we're going to do for this lesson is everybody's going to create a story. Okay, and I'm going to give you the tools right now. We're going to go through those tools and we're going to share what they are. Now, half an hour isn't very long. You know, like usually these lessons are units that we teach over a long period of time. So this is also going to require some of our parents and some of our adults and maybe our older siblings that are in the house just to help our kids in creating their story and help them find resources. So we have an amazing library that exists. And guess what? This internet piece, you know, it could be used for more than Amazon and eBay, and it could be used for more than just TikTok. We can actually create some really cool resources for our students and our kids. So let's use some of those resources on the internet to try find out some details on stories. So number one, all of us in here, you just all showed me that you're all storytellers. 100%. You told me, you showed me that you can tell story by acting. You told me all of these different things that you can tell stories through comic books, through chapter books, through all these different things that you have. So you are a storyteller. I want you to say that as loud as you can so all the people can hear. I am a storyteller.
I am a storyteller.
I don't know if I believe that. I want to hear people all the people that are listening on there. I want you to tell me that you are a storyteller as loud as you can. This isn't a classroom. This is our home. So you can yell as loud as you can, and I guarantee nobody's going to get mad at you. And hopefully, none of your siblings or anybody's sleeping. So on a count of 3, as loud as you can, I want you to tell me, I am a storyteller. 1, 2, 3.
I'm a storyteller.
Oh, I almost believe you. Almost. So one more time, and I'm going to say it with you, okay, so that you're not by yourself. So on a count of 3, I want you to say, I am a storyteller. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I am a storyteller. All right. So we are storytellers. Guess what? Nobody tells a story like you. You're the only one who can tell a story like you. You want to know why? Because there is nobody like you. You are unique, you are special, and you have an awesome, amazing way that you look at the world. And because of that, nobody tells a story like you. So that is awesome, because there is no recreation of your story. It's yours, how you look at it, how you create it. That same goes for everybody that's out there. Everybody is a storyteller, and it's your story, and nobody recreates that. It's like a fingerprint. It's specific to you. Okay, so that's amazing and awesome. Okay, you're a storyteller. Yours is unique. The second part, and this is where I want you to write it down. I want you to think. Every story has a character. Okay, every story, like whatever it is. So the character in the box story that we told, that character was us. We were the character in that. Okay, so how do we find out our character? How do we know who our character is? So there's a bunch of different things. Our character could be silly. Our character could be funny. Our character could be sad. Our character could be a whole bunch of different things. And it's on you and who you want to create. Okay, so number one, I want you to write character on your page. I want you to write that word, character. Do your best in the spelling, or however it is. So you write that character down. And while you're writing it, I want you to think about a character and think about their personality and who they are. I want you to think about what they look like in your mind. Okay, I want you to think about all these different things that make up that character. All right, and it could be a real person, or it could be somebody that you make up. All right, so like whoever it is that you're creating and whoever it is that you're thinking about in your mind, or if it's a real person, or if it's a historical person, or if it's right now, you can create that person, and you can build it up. So I want you to think about who that is. All right, you don't have to do anything. I want you to, you don't have to draw it right now, but I want you to think about that character. That's the number one thing. All right, so you have that character down. I want you to think about who that is. Now, these are the people that the characters are the people that you're going to follow on a journey. Okay, so all these characters, they're going to do something. So the characters are actually going to go and they're going to do something. So you're thinking about who this is. You're thinking about, how they act, their personality, but you're also knowing that you're going to follow them on a journey. Okay, so in my mind, I'm participating in this. I'm thinking of a character. So my character is actually Kushi, Kukum, or a grandma. Okay, so this grandma in my mind, she has a handkerchief. Her handkerchief's tied right there. She's got a walking stick. It's not a cane, it's a walking stick. Okay, and she walks really slow, like an old Kukum, your old grandma, old Kushi. That's my character. Okay, and she's got this real cool long floral dress on. Okay, it goes all the way to the bottom, and on her feet, she's got some wicked, amazing moose hide wraparound moccasins. Okay, and these moccasins are wrapped up, and there's floral beadwork on there. And man, is she ever look cool. And she's got this handkerchief. And that's who I'm going to follow on my journey. That's my story. That's my character. Now, this old grandma, this old Kukum, some of her personality is that she's silly. Okay, she's silly. She's also cheeky. She also teases people. Okay, she's a little bit cheeky. She's a little bit funny, kind of silly too as well. But she's super knowledgeable. She's so smart. Okay, so that is my character. All right, so that's who I thought. You can think of whoever it is that you want to think about, but in my mind, that's who I'm thinking about. So if I close my eyes right now, I'm imagining, just like a video game and a character, when you're selecting them, they're turning around on that piece when you're selecting them. That's who I imagine is this old Kukum with this real cool handkerchief, covered up her face in this dress, a walking stick, and some moose-hide moccasins. And she's got this, I think she's even got a little bag, like a little purse, like these big cookum bags, these big grandma bags, she's got this carrying as well. So this is my character. This is who I'm going to follow in my story. Once you have your character, everybody that's in this lesson, you need to come to an idea of who your character is and who wants to follow. You can use mine, if you want to use mine, but you can use your own as well, because we all tell our stories in our own way, and we're all thinking of somebody cool in our own way. And for example, I know, Camden, you had a story that you created at school that we got to watch, and he created a blob. Okay, so he called him Bob the Blob, and he made this really cool story about Bob the Blob and, finding a key and going through all of these different things. Really cool, really neat idea. So it could be anything that you want to think about and how you want to write that. So, and you can have more than one character, but the main character, the one that does all of the main parts, is somebody that you want to think about. Okay, so we'll go to the next piece, and we're going super fast, so I apologize for this, but the next piece is the story structure. Every story has 3 parts, okay? So all the stories that we think about have 3 parts. Number 1, I want you to write this down. 3 parts of the story. Number 1, it begins. Okay, write it down. It begins. So every story has a way that the story starts, whether that's once upon a time, long time ago, and then you set all of the beginning parts. You create all of the space. You create all of the understanding and the knowledge in there. So, it begins, it starts. How does it begin? That's the first part. You can't start a story without the beginning. You can't start a story without putting the foundation of how the story begins. It's impossible. So you need to have that. Number 2, the second part, something happens. So write that down. Something happens. Okay. In all the stories that we teach about lessons and about learning, in all of our stories about our older brother, Usagi Jack, or Nana Bush, or Kutomi, those stories, something happens in that story. Okay. And what happens in that story really, it changes. It's different in different ways. But something always happens in story. Okay. A story isn't a story if we're just sitting at the table and we're just sitting there doing nothing. That's not a story. We actually have to have something happen in our story in order to make it real, in order to make it happen. The third part is it ends. Okay, so that's the third part of a story, is that the story ends. There's a way that the story finishes. So whatever way that we're telling our story, whatever we're sharing, we need to figure out how our story ends. Okay, however long the story is, but there needs to be that closure piece. There needs to be that part where the story ends in there. Okay, so those are the 3 parts. You need a character, you need how it begins, you need something to happen, and you need to know how it ends. Those are all very important parts of story. Number 4, this is where our families can get involved and our families can help. That we share our story with people. With our cousins, our brothers, or whoever it is, we share our story with them, and we ask them for feedback. We ask them for ideas, because sometimes we get blocked in our mind where we're like, oh, I can't think of anything. But if you have a conversation with your mom or your auntie, or you phone somebody and you have a conversation with your cookum on the phone, and you're saying, okay, cookum, this is my story. What do you think I could add on here to make it cooler? What do you think I should put on here to make people understand a little bit better? So the feedback part is really important, because it also enhances and creates your story, makes it stronger. And sharing those ideas with everybody makes the story more powerful. Okay, so we share those stories with one another and do it that way. Now, there are so many ways to tell story. You can write your story, you can make a comic, you can draw it, you can tell it orally, you can write a poem, you can act it out. There's so many ways to tell story. But no story is created perfectly on try number one. You have to keep practicing it until you get to the point where it's amazing and deadly and awesome, where people are just like, yeah, I love this. I want you to teach this story 100 times over and over and over again. All right. So I want you to practice this. So as you create this, this is the homework part of everything that we're doing here.